Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Vandy as well, back to the Card by Vanguard deck profiles. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't like, comment, subscribe, and so sorry. This time we're covering DZ set 2 Brandt Rotovisor. So before I get started, I want this to be clear. I've recorded since Astrayo to this video all within like the same 2 hours. At least once per those videos, I talked so much to the point where I almost actually forgot to breathe for a second. So anyways, let's go and get this started, shall we? Hopefully I don't pass out by the end of this video, but pretty much Rotovisor is this new grade 3 that Bushy has given us in DZ set 2. I want this to be clear. Bushy has given us so much support for both random old decks, and then to my memory, I think it's giving us like 3 or 4 new ride lines in set 2, which I just question why we couldn't just pump those ride lines up, or the start deck bosses, but whatever. So let's go to the start, shall we? Because Rotovisor is pretty much our final, or not our final, we finally have a reincarnation of Nova Grappler in D, thanks to these guys, and I'm really excited to play these, and I really want to get this over with, or by over with, I mean explain, so I can go play it more. So let's get this started. First up, we have our Energy Crest, or not our Energy Crest, our Ride Deck Crest. If you can't tell I'm out of it, you may only have one Ride Deck Crest in your Ride Deck. It's our energy generator. Auto Ride Deck, when you would ride, put this card into your Crest zone. If you want second energy charge 3, continuous may have up to 10 energies. And auto beginning of your ride phase, energy charge 3, and act once per turn. Energy boss 7, draw a card. All around pretty solid energy charges, and this deck really only has one unit that uses up energy, but this deck has a first for something, and it can energy charge 2 times a turn, or, well, at least 2 times at a single moment. So, which is honestly pretty solid. I mean, you can actually afford to use this thing's Energy Blast 7 skill to draw a card while still having the Energy Blaster on the board, as long as you use your abilities to energy charge, which is all around pretty solid. So I do like having this as a good card, and yeah, just run the Ride Deck Crest. And then, of course, we have our starter, or our normal unit. So our starter is Rotovisor, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, skip base. Auto Roto point for a second, draw a card, standard starter, nothing too special about it. None of the ride line requires this, but if my theory about what the fated one of time does, then yeah, this is worth it. And what I mean by that is, at the time of recording this, the day after I record this, if right now it's Thursday, March 21st, is the day that the Divine Fate of Time is going to go up. So we'll see what happens with that one. But either way, Rotovisor, nice starter. That's the one I'm choosing to go for it, one in the Ride Deck. Then we have our triggers. We have our Over Trigger, Star Dragon, DD of Infinitude, Elda Breath, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Over Trigger in your deck, reverse, trigger with the card, draw a card, choose one units, I guess plus 1 for the turn. And if you visit during jet check, activate its additional effect, which you get to double the power and critical of all former units on your board until the end of the turn. Increase the double power and critical of one at the moment activated. All around pretty solid, because in a deck that can get 5 attacks in a turn, that is pretty good, being able to up their numbers to better extents and give them all double criticals. Great, especially when you're adding even more numbers because they restart a certain amount. It's all around nice to run out of breath. It's a good over. I like having it. You can run Walnut, because Walnut would no, Walnut would not give you more attacks because the Vanguard's ability activates on attack. Therefore, you wouldn't be able to target with Walnut. But Elda Breath is still good, so one of for him. Then we have our normal triggers. Run 3 copies of Amulet Connector. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, continuous guard. So components Vanguard's a grade 3 guard, plus 5k shield. So you know, 10k shield, which is nice to have, especially in a multi-attack deck where you're pretty much calling down all your rear guards in one go. And it's a draw triggers that helps increase your hand, meaning you can fluctuate a little bit more guarding power, because that tends to be the issue with aggro decks. You tend to run out of guarding power a little bit quickly, so being able to add more of that guarding power and, more units that can possibly attack in case you're playing a board new deck to your hand is pretty useful. So 3 of our Amulet Connector for draw power. Then, of course, we run 8 crits, because I guess this is what I'm doing now. So, 4 of Star Aggression Dragon, which for some reason Google Slides says is wrongly spelled, even though that's literally what the card says word for word. I guess Aggression has 2 G's, which means Star Aggression was always spelled wrong to begin with. Anyways, the grades will boost 50k shield, 5k power. This can really be any crit. I just chose to make it Star Aggression because Star Aggression, I guess, is like the generic crit I run now in almost all of my Brandt decks, so that's an option just because I like him, and I ran it for it was either Dianos or Wellstar I originally ran it in, and then I was too lazy to change it. So then I just slowly became a part of all of my decks, because I would always copy either from Wellstar or from Dianos for both deck profiles and for actual new decks to create. So I guess it just stayed, and that's how it is. So yeah, 4-star Aggression. He's been well in my Brandt deck profile since set 6, and he's just gonna stay that way now. Then we have 4 copies of Patrol Robo Decker Cop, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rear guard. I think about the booster, put it to soul, choose a music plus 2k for the turn. This deck does not eat away into the soul at all. I mean, Actually, yeah, no, it doesn't have any single Soul Blaster, so by all means, like, you don't really use it for that skill, you just use it because of 15k, but you know, a crit is a crit, it's nice to have, but if you want to replace it with a crit that has 5k power instead, by all means, go ahead, I'm not going to question you on it, because that honestly doesn't make logical sense, but we do have 8 crit for, you know, restanding pressure, because rear guard multi-attack, you could run fronts, but they have the numbers carried away on their own. Then we run 4 copies of our heal and alter rate Spear Dragon, grades of a boost, 15k shield, 5k power, standing heal, nothing too special about it, you know, you get to recover damage, you have more damage than your opponent, all around is pretty solid. You can run any heal you want, you can even run the counter heals, but I like to have the regular heals because they have a consistent 15k shield over the fluctuating 10 to 25 of the counter heals, but you know, we run whatever heal you want. Then move on to our grade 1s. First up, we have 4 copies of our PG and Steel Fizz Transformation Stole Grommas. So grade 1 boost, 0 okay, base contains Sentinel. We have 4 Sentinels in deck. I'll put on guard circle, choose on views. It cannot be until battle. If your hand is doing more cards in it, choose a card from hand, card stand PG. Nothing too special about it. Basically, that means if this only one of the cards in here and place it on guard circle, you know, it's going to be great because that means you can be against aggressive you want in the early game. And when your opponent eventually counterattacks you, you don't have to worry because you can just throw out as one card, and then you can give your opponent a middle finger because you've automatically survived their biggest attack. And that's great because, again, this is a multi-attack deck. You want to early game rush. If you have played Nova Grapplers in V, then you know how Bushy treated them. And I'm going to go over this real quickly because as much as I didn't care for Novas at all, I felt really bad for how they were treated. Novas were like the progenitor of everything. Novas were the testing ground because Novas were the first Excel deck in V, and they got horribly treated, and then Aquaforce came out and they got Maelstrom, and we all know how Maelstrom turned out. They got a butt ton of searchers once Glory came out, but and then Razors tried something. It was specifically Razors tried something. I don't remember what it was, and then they did bad with it, and then another deck tried it. Like, this was specifically Ultimate Dual Flare tried it, and then another deck tried it, and I forgot what deck it was, but then that deck did it successfully. We were mistreated with Novas, but you know what? This deck kind of brings us back. So we have Destination Monster Bulba Mine, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, auto rear guard, about this unit boosted. If your order's on a set order, put a solo counter charge 1. All around pretty solid. The main grade 3 in this deck for some reason takes 2 CB, which is the first time in a while I've seen a main Vanguard actually require more than 1 CB for its skill, which goes to show you how like low the cost of a lot of stuff in D is, especially when one of them is fucking free. Thanks for that one, Blagdmeyer. Anyways, being able to send itself to soul and counter is great because that means if you want to run soul blasters, you could, but also this thing helps mitigate the counter charge, which there are counter charges in this deck inherently, but after test playing it without Bulba Mine, I'm gonna tell you this right now, yeah, you're going to want more counter charge. The reason why I tested without Bulba Mine is because I actively forgot to put Bulba Mine in. I had full intention of putting it in, but I legitimately forgot to because I was in such a rush to play the match that, yeah. Which, by the way, if you watch that match before you watch this deck profile, yeah, that's why Bulba Mine's not in there. It's not because I didn't want to. It's because I legitimately forgot to put Bulba Mine in. But anyways, free soul charge and draw, or free soul charge and counter charge is all around pretty solid, and you don't have to move it off rear guard if you don't need to because you probably already have enough CB. So it's a nice booster for that as well. So 4 of also early game rush, you know, just throw these guys down and bully your opponent down. Then we have 4 copies of White Flash Scythe Baldrat, so grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, continues rear guard circle during the battle that it boosted. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard and your orders on 2 or more set orders, it gets plus 5 power. So, you know, 13k base is all around pretty solid for extra boosting power. Again, typically out of Bulba Mine in this, you're probably going to call this in the early game because you want to keep Bulba Mines for your counter charge turns just in case, because if you get CB starved in this deck, oh, you fall apart so hard because the deck needs the restand to have the pressure. So if you don't get the restand, which typically is because you don't have CB, is going to hurt you. So don't call Bulba Mine unless like you have extras, but Baldred, like regardless if you have 1 or 2, call them and rush your opponent down. But you know, because the higher the damage they are, and then when you eventually do your restand, not only does it lock them out of like more options for defensive triggers, but also, you know, it just means if you sack a crit on the Vanguard, you win, or like they have to guard a lot more, which is fun. And then the other skills, auto rear guard, about a boosted. But if the order's on a set order and it put it to soul, look at top 5 cards of your deck, you up to 1 grade 2 or unit card, or grade 2 or greater unit card, or a set order from on them, reveal, put it in your deck. All around pretty solid because it can fetch you a Persona Ride, it can fetch you your Order Searcher, your Combine Rushers, this thing, it can fetch you so much, or it can fetch you your main win con. All around, Baldred is a very solid grade 1. I do like her skill, and again, if you wanted to run Soul Blasters in this deck, your entire grade 1 lineup plus the crit pretty much guarantees you will not have a soul problem. So by all means, feel free to run Soul Blasters in this deck for Baldred. And of course, we get to our last grade 1 on the deck, one of in the right deck, none in the main deck. Elda, Rotovisor, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base. I love how he's just in like the Blizzard, which is something I find funny because in the intro for what's it called, for Divine Z, they have Welstra like literally standing laughing maniacally in a blizzard, and yet none of his arts, at least for DZ so far, recognize that in the fact that he was in a blizzard. But then for some reason, not only does the demo deck boss have a set order that literally takes place in a blizzard, Wizard. But then we also have this ride deck card that takes place. I'm just saying, it seems like Wildstar was kind of misjudged there, or not misjudged, misinterpreted there. Anyways, Rotovisor. Auto and Rotopon by a grade 2 card Rotovisor in its card name. Search after 1 arena card, reveal, put it to hand, shuffle your deck. All around pretty solid. It searches your deck for your order, just like every other Brandt Gate starter does, or Brandt Gate everyone does, so fair enough. And then Auto Rear Guard. When the other unit same column as the unit stands by your card's ability, this unit gets plus 5,000 power for that turn. Okay, cool. This deck card is not in the main deck, which means you cannot get that skill off. But if you did run in the main deck, and I actually did have it in there when I forgot to put Bulba Mine in the deck, it does end up being helpful. You know, giving this unit an extra 5k is nice, and it does apply for pressure. But that's pretty much all it does, and it has to be specifically another unit, so you can't really stand it via the Vanguard's effect and expect it to get the power. On the bright side, though, it's not a hard once per turn. I mean, you can just keep standing the same unit, and then it'll still keep getting the power. Either way, though, really good grade 1. It does search the order for free, and it can possibly get multiple numbers a turn if you ever restand the same unit in the same column as it more than once. So 1 of in the ride deck, none in the main deck. Then we have 4 copies of Nova Grappler Arena Urban City. Grade 2 set order. If set orders play, put it to your order zone. It's literally free to set. Okay. And then auto order zone. When your unit attacks, if you have a Vanguard with Rotovisor in its card name, and another arena in your order zone that did not rest this battle, rest this card, choose one of your units that is attacking, and it gets auto Vanguard or Rear Guard. When this unit attack hits, countercharge 1 or energy charge 2 at the end of the battle. Again, with the main grade 3 being 2 counterblast for his skill, it does require you to use CC. I did not realize that it actually gave the Vanguard the skill too, which is actually an interesting thing that I just learned. So now I know how to play the deck a little bit better. The fact that now that it can give the Vanguard on hit. But the best part about this is you don't have to countercharge if you don't want to. And that gives this deck so much more power if you need to go first. Because if you go first with something you want to do, so you know you can build up your orders and multi-attack a lot more consistently, then you can give them all the CEC skill because you don't counterblast until you get to your grade 3 turn. Which means you can just stack up your energy and equal out with the person who got to go second and got the free 3 EB from the energy counter because they went second. So all around, this order is pretty good. It can help you max out your EB a lot more consistently, or it can help you mitigate your counter charges with your counter blast. All around, pretty solid, and it works with both Vanguard and Rear Guard on hit abilities, giving your opponent more reason to guard. And something I just want to point out, for those who don't know, I'm a fan of LBX, and this shield looks extremely like Achilles' Deed, and so do these jetpacks. And so does this armor. I know this is not Achilles' Deed from LBX, but if you've seen LBX before and you know what I'm talking about, tell me that does not look like him, because it straight up does. Anyways, 4 of Urban City. It's a very good set order, and we love it. Then we have 4 copies of Solidsturmer. Grade 2 and set 5k shield, 10k base, auto rear guard once per turn. When a set order is played from your hand and put into your order zone, this unit gets plus 5,000 power for that turn, and then you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, you choose up to 1 set order from another reveal, put it to hand, shuffle your deck. All around pretty solid, because the grade 1, while yes, auto searches it, the grade 2, depending on your situation, you might either want to add the area, or you might want to just add a Rotovisor card instead. So being able to have more options to get orders out of deck is great, because it also deck thins, and it's a 15k, and if you know any rush deck at all, any form of poking is a good amount of poking, because at least you are forcing out guard power, or at least threatening 1 hit. And as I will tell you, and I've told this story a few times on the channel now, any amount of poking can win you the game if you are smart enough to make it win. My main example of this, which a lot of people will question, and if you want and I don't know why I keep hinting at this, but if you want like a full video of like dumb times that have won me the game when I've done something stupid, then comment it down below, because this example of poking I'm talking about is where I willingly called 2 PGs as a bit. It was not intentionally to win, it was as a bit. It was with Dragon Empire, and I think it was in D, and I think it was set 3, and I called Twin Buckler Dragons to the same column on first grade 1 turn when I was going second, and I won the game off of it. And that is like a whole Pandora's box of how that happened. And if you guys want me to get into it, comment it down below. But for now, let's focus on the deck profile. Either way, free poke, free search, easy 4 of. That's all I gotta say about him. Then we have Combine Rusher, a grade 2 that I have 50-50 feelings with. I do not like him because he does, in the decks I want to run him in, he eats into my CB. And then in the decks I do run him in, he's like sometimes either really good or sometimes he's just a brick, like straight up. Like, it doesn't matter what he does, he's just not going to do anything that entire match, no matter how good his numbers are. So take that as you will, but in here he's actually really good. So Combine Rusher, grade 2 and set 5k shield, 10k base, auto rear guard. When this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, doesn't matter if it's a Vanguard or a rear guard. If your order has 2 or more set orders, this unit will get plus 1,000 power for that battle, which is pretty solid, so 20k swing. And then auto drop zone, when the set order you played from hand this turn is put into your order zone, counterboss 1 calls card to rear guard from drop zone. All around pretty solid because it does give you ride deck fodder, which is nice. In the original version, I also did not have this, but this is because I was also running this in the main deck, which was not helping at all because, again, I like Bulba Mine. I completely forgot to put it in because I was in such a rush to record the video. But anyways, Combine Rusher is pretty solid because it does allow itself to be called. It acts as discard fodder for your ride deck, which is nice. And while it's a CB, it kind of adds to the CB problem. This exists, and now that I have Bulba Mine exists. So 4th Combine Rusher, very solid. Rear guard spam, possible 20k swing, and by possible I mean guaranteed because this automatically gets you one, and you will most likely have a second one in hand by the time you get to grade 3. So yeah, free play. So 4 of Combine Rusher. Then we have 4 copies of Compassionate Mechanic, grade 2 set 5k shield, 10k base. I did not use her once during any of my testing matches, simply because I was too busy either beating the shit out of my opponent with Combine Rusher or too busy beating the shit out of them with Advent Robust. It is nothing against her, it's just that my board was already set up to where I didn't need her. Anyways, Mechanic, grade 2 set 5k shield, 10k base, continues rear guard during turn. If your order zone has 2 or more arenas, she gets plus 5,000 power, so 15k, which is nice, but again, compared to 20k swing and 23k swing, you can kind of see why I didn't swing with her. And then considering she's a grade 2 that doesn't have boost, automatically she is no longer targetable via, you know, Granzel over here. So she didn't really do much, sadly. And then her other skills continues to rear guard once per turn. At the end of the battle, as she attacked, if your Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater in an arena in your order zone that rests that battle, Energy Blast 3 to draw a card, choose one of your units, and gets plus 5,000 power for the turn. You have one of 2 choices here. You can either run this, or you can run like the DZ revealed grade 2 that, you know, the generic card that's either Energy Blast 3 or Counter Blast 1, you ditch it to draw a card. Or if you really want to, you can run a Habitual Zone, because you have more than enough soul thanks to the existence of these 2 alone. But, you know, either or, like, Compassionate is good, don't get me wrong, because it is extra hand cards in a rush deck, and she can make another unit gain 5k, and she herself is a 15k. It's just that scenario-wise, she has not come up on the simple factors of my board is already so well developed that in the aggressive area that I don't really need the consistency. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's good, don't get me wrong, and we have more than enough energy thanks to the existence of this order alone, but, yeah, it's just like, you have options, either Habitual Zone, the DZ Fated, the DZ version of Fated, of Habitual Zone, or her herself, either or, whatever it was, it's at 4 copies. Then we move on to our last grade 2 in the deck. One of them in the right deck, none in the main deck, and that is a Vasa Rotovisor. Grade 2 set 5k shield, 10k base. Auto and Rotopon by a grade 3 card of Rotovisor in its card name. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck to 1 grade 3 or greater card of Rotovisor in its card name, or up to 1 arena card from bundle. Reveal, put it to your hand and shuffle your deck. And if you do not reveal a card, you may call this card to rear guard. All around pretty solid. You know, worst comes to worst, and you do whiff that. Weirdly enough, I did actually whiff that already, but being able to call itself is great. And then also auto rear guard when these attacks into anything. If you have a Vanguard Rotovisor in its card name, it gets plus 5,000 power for that battle. Okay, so, you know, worst comes to worst. If you do actually whiff your search, or you just don't want to show anything from your search because maybe you already have your arenas in hand, or you already have like your grade 3 Rotovisors in hand, or you just don't want them in hand for whatever reason that may be, you can just choose to call this in case you need a rear guard, and now you have a 15k beat stick that can ram into anything. It's not powerful by any means, but, you know, 15k beat stick's a 15k beat stick, and like I said earlier, a poke is a poke, and a poke can make the difference. So one of them in the riot deck, none in the main deck. And move on to our grade 3s. We're on 4 copies of Advent Rust. Grade 3 to personal 13k base. The funny thing is, I thought he was... I never said I didn't think he was useless. I just didn't like him, and like Combine, I pretty much didn't run him until I finally found a deck where I was forced to. And I remember the only reason I chose to run him in this deck is because at the time of recording this, I think it was 2 days ago, I got a comment on one of my Brandt deck profiles saying About Rust is a good card, and in their version they run it. And I was like, you know what? I'll think about that the next time I build a Brandt deck. Lo and behold, the next time I build a Brandt deck. And you know what? I listened to that, and he's working. He's actually doing his job. So with his skill, auto when he's placed on the rear guard circle, counter blast one, another counter blaster. Again, Bulba Mine. Anyways, search your deck for 1 set order reveal. And if your order zone has a card with the same card name as that card, put it to hand, shuffle your deck. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this right now. We only have 1 other card in the deck, and if you've been paying attention, you know what that card is. But in case you haven't, this is the only order in the deck. So you are almost, if you use that skill at all to search something, you are guaranteedly getting something to hand. And then auto rear guard when it attacks into anything, choose 2 set orders with the same card name from your order zone. If he chose 2 cards, literally gets 1 himself. This possibly nets you 1, and not to mention this nets you 1 for free. You pick the 2, and if you do, he'll get plus 10k for that battle. So 23k swing against a grade 2, against a grade 3, doesn't matter. Great rushing, makes his deck better going first. It's just all around an amazing grade 3. He's a 4 of. Just make him a 4 of. And then we have our last card in the deck, who has an amazing art. Like, okay, in my opinion on the card, it looks iffy, but then I put it in the thumbnail for its match again, and I already forgot what his match was, and I played it earlier. Frick, I actually forgot what the match was. Luhan. I put it again, when I made the thumbnail against Luhan, it looked so ungodly beautiful, and I don't know why. But anyways, Granzel Rotovisor, grade 3, twin drive, persona 30k base. Okay, I want to know what this means. If this is German for anything, I have to go call my friend and tell him that Novas, his main, has another German line because he's a big fan of Blau's. And if this is actually German, then oh my god, I have to deal with Blau V2 Electric Boogaloo and D. But you know, it's going to be worth it because that thing actually does look cool at full art. Anyways, grade 3, 10 persona 13k base, continues Vanguard Circle during your turn. If your order zone has 3 or more arenas in it, all your farm units get plus 5,000 power. Okay, cool, pretty solid because again, you are guarenteed to set one on grade 2 turn thanks to the existence of this. And then most likely you will get a second one thanks to this, and maybe you'll hit a third one off of this, or if you're like me, you'll just draw the third one inherently. So free 5k to front row, which is a pretty solid, so it makes everything into a poke, which again, poking makes a difference. And then auto Vanguard once per turn. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked into anything, counterblast 2, draw a card. The most random insertion of a draw skill I've ever seen, but okay. Then choose the same number of your rear guards as the number of arenas in your order zone. The order zone cards don't have to be rested, which is something I thought originally. But the order zone cards can be stand, meaning you can just willingly choose not to use any of their skills until you do the restand, and then they will still be able to restand rear guards. But you choose them, stand them, and then if you chose 3 or more rear guards, all the chosen rear guards get plus 5,000 power for the turn, and most likely, because that requires 3 orders, that means your entire farm was also getting plus 5. So at least the ones in the front row have plus 10. And if you persona roll this turn, that's a plus 20. And if you're using Advent Rusher, or sorry, Combine Rusher and Advent Robust like I am, you're probably winning the game that turn because you got numbers. And the best part is he gives you a free draw just for a little bit of that extra defensive power in case you need. And while yes, this EB2 is a little bit hefty, the on-hit pressure this causes is great because you're either going to get the EB2 unless you you know, if you don't need the CC, or you're getting the CC1 in case you do need it. And honestly, if you're at like 3 damage or less, and if all of your damage is face down, just EC1 and then you're fine because most likely you'll take an attack next turn and then you'll be able to use your skill, or just use Boat Mine. I'll say this, the deck falls apart without this skill because this is pretty much its main way of killing, because otherwise it's just a 3 attack deck that, granted, has numbers, but that's pretty much all it's got going for it, and those numbers are kind of like numbers other decks can hit but better. But when it gets that restand skill off, oh, does it hit like a truck. Honestly, these guns kind of make up for it. This guns explains what this deck does when it actually gets the restand off. Either way though, it's just a good card. So 3 of them in the main deck, 1 of them in the right deck for multi-attack and front row power plus. And that's it for this deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is actually fun to play. I love, as much as I hate the fact that Bushy has inflated the entirety of D with pretty much almost every deck having a way to restand rear guard, which kind of gets boring after a while. I do love the idea of restanding rear guards, especially multiple rear guards at the same time, which is why Straw Virena is one of my favorite cards, just because it can stand a whole board at the same time for arbitrary reasons. But I love playing this deck, you know, getting all of these multi-attacks going, getting numbers, having Novas revived and being decent. I really hope this deck becomes good, and normally I don't care about the meta, but I really want this deck to become meta just so I can say this is what happens when you finally give Nova the chance to shine. They get to do something. If this deck becomes meta, someone come back and comment on this video telling me that they actually became meta, and I will legitimately be proud. Either way though, I'm gonna end this one here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to send up your Vanguards.